How much will CJ Gardner-Johnson's competitive zeal bring to the Eagles defense? What has life been like for the Nick Sirianni family over the past week or so? And much more coming up next on the PHLY Eagles podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Monday. Hi to Bo Wulf, Zach Berman. Camp week is here. Zach, I know you're counting down the hours. How was your weekend? And was your family like telling you to just calm down because you were bouncing off the walls with excitement over camp beginning on Wednesday?
So, I'm doing well. Thrilled to be here. Feels like December 30th right now. Okay. 2 days before the new year, because really the year starts. It's not week one. It's training camp.
Okay. And what would represent the holiday season that just passed in this metaphor?
What would represent, so what's Christmas here? Christmas would be your return to the show. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So
just call me old Kris Kringle.
I got to say, as far as my family noticing excitement, I think right now it's more like the pregame. I don't want to say jitters, but how like you're anxious before a big game, that kind of thing. You got a lot of ideas. You're running out of time. There's a few things I want to get up on the site, allphly.com, before camp begins. But
you have a story up there today.
Yeah, the final part of this dragged on a little longer. It was 30 thoughts, and it was supposed to be wrapped up a little sooner, but wrapped up here. I had to get it done before camp, and I'll have my pre-camp 53 up there at some point. I'm going to have some other kind of things I'm looking forward to at camp. So, and then once camp begins, we're in full camp mode. So excited for it. The first practice is 10 a.m. on Wednesday. The players report tomorrow. There's football in the air right now. I imagine that was the big story around the country this weekend. Now, eager for training camp.
You keep dipping your toe. You're playing with fire. We're going to have to get there eventually.
I don't know what you are referring to, although I am a big West Wing fan, and so my...
And so what? You thought the Aaron Sorkin suggestion that the Democrats nominate Mitt Romney, you thought that was a bit of inspiration that everybody should follow?
I read Aaron Sorkin's op-ed in Sunday's New York Times, and then a lot changed later in the day. Anyways, let's get to the Eagles news and the Eagles of it all.
Yes, the wise, all-knowing Aaron Sorkin. Okay. What about AJ Brown's camp on Friday that you had a chance to attend? Zach, what was that like?
It was good seeing AJ, but also it was interesting. You liked to say, and I don't know if I would frame it this way, but we're also a dad show here.
I would say so. Yeah.
And so it was good. The camp. I was waiting a bit of time for AJ to come. I got there early. It got
Did
pushed
Julio
back.
come?
No, Julio was not there.
Okay.
But Nick Sirianni was there with his son. Aaron Moorhead, the Eagles wide receivers coach, was there with his son, and so they were there as dads, maybe more so than coaches, but certainly supporting AJ Brown. So it was nice seeing them in the wild right before camp begins, and then I caught up with AJ briefly. He's excited for camp. He was there to support. He was there to kind of give back to the community. He said he didn't really have a chance to go to these football camps when he was younger. Always feels the love in Philly, that kind of thing. It's pretty cool to see it's always cool to see the excitement on the kids' faces at these things. I've gone to a number of these camps over the years, and I can tell you, to be honest, I was a little late to a family dinner that night, or I was supposed to be there early, but I called my son and I told him I was at AJ Brown's camp, and he was he was pumped. He said, next time, can I take him?
You should have taken him. Yeah. What are we doing?
Yeah. And he liked AJ Brown's cleats. Yeah, he said AJ Brown had drip. So more drip than his dad, for sure. Yeah.
Reed dropping drip.
More drip than his dad.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, because I think we're going to talk about, the Nick Sirianni conversation that's in the NFL zeitgeist right now. There was the reporting from Diana Rossini last week at The Athletic about some of the dynamics that were potentially going on behind the scenes last season. The idea that, Nick Sirianni is coaching for his job. We have talked around and about this for a long time. I was going to try to buy that new refrigerator last week, and I got the TV up, and I think it was Fox Sports, and it's like a 20-minute segment on Nick Sirianni on the hot seat, all this stuff. And, this is like the one time when the NFL families get time with the coaches get time with their families.
Yes.
What do you think life has been like over the summer for the Sirianni family, as they're just trying to get away? And if you're flipping through the TVs and it's all about oh, is dad going to keep his job? That stuff is interesting.
I hear you there. And there's a part of me that's empathetic, right? I imagine that's tough. There's another part of it that's, this is the business they chose, right?
They get paid handsomely for this. This is,
but they know it when they get into it, and so
sure.
It's the Bum Phillips quote. You're either been fired or going to be fired, right? There's two types of coaches. But
not enough people named Bum these days.
No, I guess not. I haven't really thought about that, but you're right. No, it's a good observation, because it is the dominant topic. And when Les was on last Monday, we discussed this. Les Bowen, when he was on last Monday, we discussed this. And I framed the question to Nick, is this job wearing on you because of that type of conversation? There's a part of Nick that, I think looks at this, and I wrote this the other day. He's been to the playoffs all 3 years. He's been to the Super Bowl, 2 double-digit win seasons. Come on, but it's also, you're the coach of the Eagles. You have an insane amount of talent here. This is the job you signed up for. This is the fan base you signed up for. And when you win, Doug Peterson is forever beloved here. There's a statue outside the stadium. The Eagles didn't commission it, but there's a statue outside the stadium. So yeah, now the stories will continue to change. I think, like you mentioned, when you're in that 6-week period, and we're guilty of this too. I don't want to act, everyone needs something to talk about. Everyone needs something to write about. When I talked about my excitement for training camp last week, one of the things I said is storylines replenish. There's things new. For 6 weeks, and really 6 months here, this has kind of been going on, and so soon enough we'll have games and practices and things of that nature to discuss.
Yeah, I just think it's in the middle of the season, if this conversation is going on, it's much easier to tune it out, I would imagine, from Sirianni's perspective. You have a job to do, but in the middle of the summer, when this is your time to get away, and this is a guy who he's like a sports aholic, right? Exactly. He's probably watching ESPN or whatever all day long, and he just a conversation about how good you are at your job. It's just kind of funny to think about. What if you're driving to work and the nonstop conversation Zach Berman sucks.
Honestly,
get this guy out of here.
I would be listening to it. I would be engaged.
You would?
For sure, yeah.
But people who have no idea what they're talking about?
It's like Andy Reid getting the play from the janitor. You never know if someone has an idea. It's the line from Rudyard Kipling. If all men count with you, but none too much. That's
really.
Yes, it is. You don't take everyone's word as the only word, but you listen to everyone. The reality is, I go back to the Jason Kelce line. You write your own narrative, right? This is what's being discussed now. If Nick wins, this won't be talked about. And if Nick loses, this is going to be talked about. So now a coach isn't having the same, a player's kind of more directly writing it. But yeah, you write your own narrative here. Ultimately, we write what happens. They control what happens.
I also think he would probably say he doesn't mind it as much as it's the family, right? That's exactly. What you would always hear.
Right? 100%. And kids in school, I imagine, and other moms. This is. I feel for that. It's also you hear these coaches they live in like 6 places in 6 years, right? It's a tough industry. Like it's fun, I imagine, but it's a tough industry.
Now, what did you make of the substance
Yeah.
of the reporting from Diana Rossini?
Yeah, well, first off, Diana's outstanding at her job. Always has been, is now.
And boy, what a producer for that podcast.
Absolutely. Shout out to Marissa. So my understanding is, so it really depends on how you interpret what she was saying. From my understanding, Brian Johnson was calling the plays, but Brian Johnson wasn't calling his plays. So I don't know. I haven't spoken to Diana about this report. Nick has been on the record in the past saying like he's in charge of the offense. Nick said when we spoke to Nick in June, and let me pull the exact quote up here. Nick said that I didn't call plays. I know everyone thinks that. I didn't call plays last year, all right, but I had to help. I wanted to help with that. It was my expertise of helping, just like it was in 21, and just like it was in 2020, and just like it was in 22. He continued. I felt a mistake that I made was focusing so much on the offense, basically. And he said, and that's not what's best for the team, and what's needed for the team is me to be the head coach, not the offensive coordinator, for multiple reasons. Brian Johnson was not calling his offense last year. Brian Johnson was calling Nick Sirianni's offense, and I think Nick had a heavier hand than maybe he had the year before with Shane, when him and Shane had a more of a history together, if you will, and when things are going bad. But I think Nick kind of wanted to put his finger on the scale. I believe that Brian Johnson was calling the plays now, but I also believe that it was Nick Sirianni's plays.
Yeah, there's also
Brian
a
Johnson
distinction between Nick Sirianni is saying in the week leading up to the game plan, like if we're in the red zone,
yes,
these are the 4 plays I want you to call.
Exactly.
And then
Yep.
Brian Johnson gets to choose from those 4.
Exactly.
Like, that's a little bit different than even if Nick. And there were times where on the sideline it did look like Nick was calling plays every now and then. So I'm sure that there's a little bit of truth in between here.
Sure.
And you also have to think about the motivations of the people who would have been talking to Diana about if there's someone from Brian Johnson's camp who wants to make it known that he doesn't have the stink of that offensive diminishment on him, that's fine. But I mean, it's obviously true. You just think about the interpersonal dynamics of it. Like if Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni are not as close, they don't have as much history as he did with Shane Steichen, right? So if he thinks that he's coaching for his job, he's going to do what he thinks Nick wants. And if Nick wants certain types of plays, those are the plays he's going to call. It's also the offense that Nick installed.
I just see in the chat they clarified the article from Johnson wasn't calling plays, that Johnson wasn't calling his own plays, which is the distinction we made there. And you hit it on the head, right? Brian Johnson probably wants it out there to be known that he did have his hands tied. And when Brian Johnson was fired, we kind of said as much too. So that part of it. The other part of Diana's report podcast, she has a podcast, Scoop City, with Chase Daniel, where this was on, and it was said in there that this is like Howie Roseman's show. Yeah, I can tell you that this is Howie Roseman's show. I mean, Howie Roseman's more involved than most GMs are. I've used this maybe on this show, but certainly in conversations with others. If you follow other sports, Howie Roseman is more like a baseball GM than a football GM in that baseball GMs are like the all-powerful, baseball GMs control basically everything in the organization, right? And that's kind of what Howie is here. He has his hands in a lot of different areas. He's not just scouting and picking the players. I mean, everything kind of funnels up to him, and that's the way this is structured. Now, Nick does not report to Howie. Nick reports to Jeffrey Lurie. That's the structure that's been in place since Andy Reid was here. But Howie, they're not hiring coaches without Howie Roseman having say in this, right? And certainly in these situations, strong say in this. And then also in that report, I thought the most interesting part of it, frankly, I know the play calling thing got a lot of attention, but was just the Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni dynamic. And this is something you've been harping on, and you're absolutely right. This is going to be a major topic, and it should be. Like, Jalen Hurts needs to be better this year, but Jalen Hurts is the most important person in the organization. And Nick, when we talk about kind of the buy-in that Nick needs from the team, Nick needs buy-in from the quarterback. And that can't just be implicit, that needs to be explicit. Like that, I think those in the locker room need to see that Jalen believes in the coach.
Do you think we will see some kind of like outward show of, some big ceremonial bro hug on the first day of practice or something like that? Because I don't, and not even because I think that there's like a lot of smoke to that relationship. Just like what I know about Jalen Hurts, I feel like the idea that everybody is telling him that he is not doing enough here, he is the kind of person, I believe, who's going to only take that and come
100%.
even more in his shell about that. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, there's nothing to see here. He's only going to get more defensive about that.
Agree with you wholeheartedly there. Agree with you. I think that's why we go back to that answer that was unnecessary. But I think that was more Jalen against the media than it was Jalen about Nick. It was like, I don't need to play along with your narratives here, and we'll see. I mean, Jalen will speak on Wednesday. I imagine this is going to come up. We will see. But yeah, this dynamic is important because, look, I'm not saying this is going to disintegrate or anything of that nature, but it would not be the first high-profile a quarterback and successful head coach who, over time, like a marriage, kind of grew apart. So Nick needs to nurture this marriage because it's essential, frankly, to his future, and it's essential to the team's success.
The Howie of it all that you touched on. First of all, what did you think of the Chase Daniel story?
Yeah, so for those who have not listened, it was that Chase who came in 2016 with Doug Peterson, right? They followed him from Kansas City, similar to Doug with Andy Reid. And Chase and Doug were very close. They spent a lot of time together the previous 3 years. And Chase was in Doug's office quite a bit when Doug got the job in Philly. Like, they're putting the offense together, they're figuring it out. And Howie says, Chase, don't spend so much time in the coach's office. Like, what do I make of it? I mean, to me, I imagine Howie probably has a reason for it, but to me, it might seem like over-managing. Like,
well, you know what's funny to me about it is this is not Howie Roseman, who just won a Super Bowl, like stretching his power. This is Howie just beginning after the
yes, exactly.
after the demotion.
Yeah.
This is like one of his first acts of business for an active roster is like, hey, Chase, get out of there.
Yeah,
stepping on Doug's toes. Kind of funny.
And you wonder, look, at that time, and you wrote about this quite a bit, like the big thing in the organization at the time, especially for Howie, was Carson Wentz, right? So maybe there's a dynamic there, like, like
that's fair.
Everything needs to be geared toward Carson here. But I found it to be, I mean, I usually think Howie's like pretty, Howie has a reason for doing things.
I'm sure he had a reason for doing that.
Yeah, but I mean that seemed to be a little much. I don't know. I mean, I haven't spoken to Howie about that anecdote. I am curious now. Sometimes there is this thought, like, players need to be off the locker room, right? You don't want to kind of be viewed as like the coach's right. guy in there, the coach's pet. Maybe it was something like that. Like, this will affect your relationship with the players if you're just viewed as like a direct extension of the head coach. Maybe there, it could frankly have been constructive for Chase, but it did seem like a little much.
I feel like if it was with the intention of being constructive, it could have been like, "Hey, Doug, why don't you tell Chase that he shouldn't spend so much time with you anymore?" Like,
but the way Chase was using it was in the sense that, like, Howie's aware of everything going on in that building.
Absolutely,
and I would agree, Howie's aware of everything that's going on in that building. Is that Howie's not one of those who leaves. That's not a big deal. Like, everything.
Well, that's not my area.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Everything matters to Howie.
Yeah, and I think if it's if you're thinking back to, for instance, the decision to demote Sean Desai and replace him with Matt Patricia midseason, the notion that would have been only Nick Sirianni's idea and Howie Roseman wouldn't have been involved is farcical.
Yes.
Like, of course that he would have been involved in that decision. And I also think, Diana and Chase talked about this, the idea of, Howie playing a big role in who the coordinators were. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing.
No.
Nick has his own contact lists, and those have to some degree been diminished over time. This is a problem. And Howie has been in the league for a long time. It's the same reason we talk about like how he would have been sort of laughing at Joe Shane being surprised at some of the numbers as free agency started. Like he's been playing this game much longer.
Yeah.
So he's going to have more tentacles as touch points throughout the league.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Howie he's very plugged in, but also like he's very curious. There was an anecdote. I don't think I'm out of line saying this. There was an anecdote probably like 9-10 years ago when there was a position coach at a college who was really impressive, and I mentioned that, and then Howie wanted to know like as much as he could about that, he was almost like debriefing for information,
Right.
like trying to find out more, because he does want to know who everyone is in football. Like he believes information's currency, and this is valuable for him.
There you go. All right. Well, also valuable for you is the Game Time app, because if you want to go to a baseball game this summer, but you want to save a little bit of money, Game Time can make it happen, and they're preaching patience, because Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. And here's the deal. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. You've also got all the nice little features on the Game Time app, including the ability to see the view from your seats before you get there, flash deals, zone deals. You've even got the customize your spot and the supplemental as inspiration. So, views from all seats in the venue, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. All that good stuff, no downside. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an inspiration, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
I speak about Rite Aid often on the show, and in recent weeks, I've been speaking about getting hydrated at Rite Aid with their refreshery line. But it's not just about getting hydrated; it's getting satiated, right? And that's where LO Market comes in. Okay, the LO Market line at Rite Aid, and when I say LOELLO, this line includes candy, snacks, and pantry items. So it's speaking to my two kids. It's exclusively at Rite Aid. Their
As if you don't like candy.
I don't eat candy. We'll get to that later. The products include candy from classics like Peach Rings and Starlight Mints, the Gummy Butterflies, and Sour Worms. They have nuts and trail mixes packed with vitamins, minerals, healthy fats, fiber, and protein. There is popcorn. I love popcorn. I might go see a movie sometime soon, and I'll bring.
What?
I'll go to Rite Aid and I'll go to LO Market.
You sounded like an alien who was trying to fit in with the human race. I like popcorn. I might go see a movie sometime soon.
Can I please tell you about LO Market here? Because you can get buttery, sweet, and salty, cheddar, and sea salt. And you can get beef jerky packed with protein. You can get granola featuring whole grains, then pantry samples like honey and seasonings. Snack Attack, get LO Market delivered same day or buy online, pick up in store. Go to riteaid.com/shop to order. Two things. Okay. First off, the movie thing. I didn't want to deviate from our friends at Rite Aid there. If you recall, the eve of training camp last year, I went to the movies, and I was thinking maybe.
Did you see Oppenheimer?
I saw Oppenheimer. Yeah. And I thought maybe this could be the start of like a new tradition.
Oh, okay.
Maybe on the eve of training camp, I go to the movies.
Yeah, because you like popcorn.
What's that?
Because you like popcorn.
Well, so I actually don't buy popcorn at the movies.
Why?
I buy for my kids. Well, we don't need to get into that.
Because it's too expensive? Is that why? But you like popcorn.
Yeah, but I could put it in the microwave for a fraction. Anyways.
Well, yeah, of course. But and yet you'll pay $75 a month for every streaming service that you need to.
But yeah, maybe I'll go see Twisters or something like that.
Okay.
This week. And the other thing, no, I do not eat candy, Bill. But my kids love candy.
Oh, geez, you're so offended.
I mean, look. It's not for I love cookies. I love cake. I love. It's not that I don't like sugar. I just don't eat candy. Yeah, candy was not a big thing for me growing up.
Good job also enunciating the R on pantry samples.
Okay. Yeah. As opposed to what, Bo?
Panty samples.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think they sell those at Rite Aid?
I think they might. Yeah.
Wouldn't know.
Okay.
Anyways.
It's in the candy aisle. That's why you don't know.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Well, let's continue our preview of the positions heading into training camp, Zach. We've got tight end and safety still to go for today. Let's start with safety, where our cover man for this episode, CJ Gardner-Johnson, returns and brings some needed playmaking and, according to Howie Roseman, some needed, as you would say, competitive zeal. Do you think that CJ Gardner-Johnson is, in some ways, like the key to the secondary being very good? We talk so much about the cornerback depth, but if the middle of the field is not dynamic, they can be had, right? And we like Reed Blankenship. He is a steady player. He will be in the right place. But if you're looking for some upside, it probably has to come from CJ Gardner-Johnson.
It's a good point. And you often hear how important the safety position is in Vic Fangio's defense. Time will tell. But CJ Gardner-Johnson, from a talent perspective, is a major upgrade over what the Eagles had a year ago. And I think they missed him. I talked about the competitive zeal, but they missed him on the field. He's not a perfect player, but he does make plays. He makes plays on the ball. He has athleticism that is hard to find at that position. Like he's a converted corner, right? So I think that saying he's the key, I think having a second corner is really important. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the whole package, it changes the complexion of the defense if they have that type of player in the secondary, for sure.
What are your expectations for CJ Gardner-Johnson?
Well, he needs to stay healthy. And you can say that about every player, but he has more of an injury history than most players do. But I think if he is healthy, I think he makes a major difference. Like I said, I know turnovers aren't necessarily a sticky stat, and there's not really a way to quantify like the nose for the football skill. But it does seem that he does make plays on the ball, and he's around the ball, and anecdotally that's the case. And then I think the versatility that he has, his ability to move in space is like real important. I think that's something that they missed last year. So yeah, my expectation is if he's healthy, he's going to be a major upgrade on the defense. Like I said, he does have his flaws, but I think he can work well.
To your injury point, just to say it, in 2021 with the Saints, he missed 5 games. In 2022 with the Eagles, he missed 5 games. And then last year with the Lions, he missed 14 games, right? So he has missed a lot of time over the past 3 years. He's only 26 years old, so you would think that this is not a declining athlete. But and I think he has said that some of those were freak injuries. I'm sure that that's true, but the longer it goes on, the bigger question mark it becomes. Yeah. So yes, I mean, he has to prove that he can stay healthy. What about the attitude of it all? The notion that the Eagles were missing some nasty last year, and he can bring some of that.
Yeah,
I think that's true.
I do, and there's no way to quantify that either. But I think for defense in particular, having an instigator, having someone who has that, to use your word, nasty, to use my word, competitive zeal, or my term, competitive zeal, I think that's particularly valuable. And it's I don't think you want 11 CJ Gardner-Johnsons on the field, but I think it's beneficial to have
beat up at the line of scrimmage.
You know what I mean? That personality. But I think if you have 1 or you have 2, I think it's valuable. And I think that they did miss that last year. I don't think they had enough players last year who had that type of personality. And I think that your defense starts to reflect that at some point.
Okay. Now, let's presume that CJ Gardner-Johnson stays healthy. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you think that the starter next to him is definitely going to be Reed Blankenship? Now, Sidney Brown is coming off the torn ACL. We don't yet know if he will be ready for camp. I would be surprised if he's ready for the start of camp.
Yeah, Jimmy Kempski says he's going to start camp on the PUP list.
Okay,
which would add up because he did not participate in the spring. So so they're still taking time to come back. Week 1, from my understanding, has been Sidney Brown's goal, but when he's on the field, I don't have an answer for that yet.
There is also
And I should say
Maddox,
Jimmy Kempski from Philly Voice.
and there is also James Bradbury. So, how many turkeys would you put on Reed Blankenship as the healthy starter opposite C.J. Gardner-Johnson?
Week 1 or week 18?
Middle of the season.
Middle of the season.
So Sidney Jones is healthy.
Sidney Brown.
Sidney Brown. Yeah.
They'd be lucky if they had Sidney
I mean,
Jones.
let's say Sidney Jones is healthy too. Just
I hope Sidney Jones is healthy.
I hope he's healthy. Yeah,
Exactly. Wouldn't wish injury on anybody.
Let's say Pumphrey's healthy too.
Okay. Great recovery. That's why you're the best in the business. Let's see. I'm gonna
Not
go
even close.
I'm gonna go 80. I still think Blankenship gives them that steady presence. I think Sidney Brown profiles more this year, at least, as your third safety. But
yeah, they've got a lot of guys, though. I mean, that could be Maddox. That could also be Cooper DeJean.
So I was going to ask you that. When I saw your graphic there, you put Maddox up with the safeties. Are you viewing him as a safety going into camp, or are you viewing him as both?
In the spring, he literally played safety.
Yes.
Along with nickel. Cooper DeJean did not. So that's why I have Maddox here as well.
And I wrote that on allphly.com today. I think that Avonte Maddox should be used as safety. And when I have my 53 out before camp, I'm going to have the Eagles light at safety. I'm going to have them keeping 3 because they can move Maddox over. In theory, they can move DeJean over. We haven't seen it, but we have seen them move Maddox over. But yeah, I don't think they have the depth of numbers unless you like Mekhi Garner, unless you like Tristan McCollum, unless you like Andre Sam. I think, though, the top 3, once Brown is back, is solid to good. And that's like Reed Blankenship's a solid to good player. He's not great. I don't know how good he is yet. Not yet. But yeah, and he was really productive early last year, and I thought like the rest of the defense, he had bad moments later in the year. But he is a guy who I trust on the field. And he is someone who's value added for them. So that's why I think Blankenship will be the safety. It's actually interesting thinking back to this time last year. We thought there was going to be a safety competition, and we thought Blankenship was going to be in the mix, and I was dead wrong. I said I thought Sidney Brown was going to be a starting safety for the team. And when I say we, okay, not we, I.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
we,
okay, yeah.
One of we knew that Reed Blankenship was going to be a starter all along.
Okay, well, so then I will do it. You do.
Crush, come on.
You have the show here. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think, Bo. Let's hear.
Well, no, that's a different thing.
What do you know this year? I want to know. Put everything you know right now. What do you know this year?
Ask me a more specific question. I know a lot of things.
Who are the starting safeties going to be midseason?
I mean, I think it's probably Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship, but yeah, I would say that let's not count out Sidney Brown midseason. Obviously, a lot of this depends on health. But what about James Bradbury here?
Yeah, I don't think James Bradbury is going to be a safety. I don't think James Bradbury is going to be on the team this year.
Okay.
But I think they'll take a look at him at safety this summer. If
Wednesday's practice, if I tell you that James Bradbury is healthy and practicing, where is he lining up?
Safety.
With what team? Second team safety?
Second team safety.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could buy that.
Yeah. That's what I think he's doing at camp.
And what safety. Would it knock your shirt off if he was the starting safety opposite C.J. Gardner-Johnson?
Knock my shirt off. It would surprise me for sure. Yeah, it would really surprise me. But
what if he was the starting corner opposite Darius Slay?
That would definitely surprise me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not expecting James Bradbury to be on the team this year. But again, like we said with James Bradbury, they're paying him no matter what. So if you're paying a guy, well, if they trade him, there's some cap relief, but the salary is guaranteed here. So I think that they'll try everything they can to see if they have something in them. But I think ultimately the opportunity cost will be too much.
And then any of the guys at the bottom of the roster between Mekhi Gardner, Tristan McCollum, and Andre Sam, who is intriguing to you?
Yeah, so I was listening to the show back from Friday. I regretted bringing up the Facebook thing just because I thought you should just let that slide. We could have kept rolling. But
So you didn't regret it. You regretted me doing
yes,
it.
Yes, yeah. Well, I should.
You brought it up.
I should have anticipated that you would have made it into something that
it clearly was.
I did not like the term that you used there, but I bring this up because I was going to the Camp Crush. Okay, if I can speculate,
the Rhino over here.
I actually I don't appreciate that. I think Andre Sam is a candidate for the Camp Crush, and let me clarify this a little bit more. Similar to you, I like younger players, right? I think I prefer my rookies to be 21, 22 as opposed to 24, 25 just because of the upside. I don't have that same feeling about undrafted players for this reason, because an undrafted player, like if he makes the team, it's gravy, right? If he plays the first year of his contract, it's gravy. I don't think you're signing undrafted guys to be like long-term fixtures. I just think you're trying to find diamonds in the rough. So if Andre Sam can come in and like be a solid special teams player, solid depth piece, it doesn't matter that he's 25 years old. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So that
was Reed Blankenship once upon a time.
Exactly.
He was 24.
Yeah. So I think when you watch Andre Sam, I think this is going to be someone that you're going to like out there.
I'm interested to see him.
Yeah.
I'm also a little bit partial to Mekhi Gardner.
You always have been. Yep.
I thought that he looked pretty good last year and looked to me like someone who maybe should be playing safety. So I'm curious to see how, after having spent the season practicing at that position, how he looks as well.
And I like a Tristan McCollum, personally.
I like a Tristan McCollum too.
Nice guy. Zion's brother.
And he's, of course, married to Isolde McCollum.
I don't get the joke. Is that over your head too, audience?
The intellectual dishonesty to pretend as if the Facebook story you were bringing up had nothing to do with HZ is ridiculous.
Please stop that. I don't appreciate that term. Okay, let's keep going here. Okay, let's keep rolling.
Okay. Well, if you want to also pretend that you don't see what's right in front of you and not want people to look you right in the eyes, you might want to put on some sunglasses. And Shady Rays can do that for you and get you a high-quality product with no downside risk. What could be better than that? You can get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last, because our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect fit to match your style. I'm going to order myself some Shady Rays for camp, because I remember I lost mine, and here's the deal. If you lose your Shady Rays, you're going to get them back, because if you don't love your shades, you can exchange for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop, and if they go missing or they take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it, because they have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
It was 5 years ago this week when I started working with Bo, and I was going to training camp, and he said, "Oh, and we're going to do a daily pod." I said, "We're going to do daily shows?" I didn't know that. A lot's changed over the years. One thing that hasn't, the great taste of Miller Lite. Another thing that hasn't is that it's less filling. So what is the best thing about the original light beer? By the way, I brought that up because we're supposed to give a behind-the-scenes glimpse about how much has changed with you and our show over the last few years. So that was
I like beer. I might go to a bar later this week.
Another thing that hasn't is that, like I said, it is less filling. Miller Lite has sparked this debate since 1975. We still have not. That was a movie reference. I understand. We still have not settled it. What I like about Miller Lite is it's the great taste, but it's also less filling. I don't like a real heavy beer, and with Miller Lite, I know I'm getting that great taste, but I also know that it's simple. It has undebatable quality, great taste, and it's only 96 calories. It's the beer that strips away everything you don't need and holds on to what matters most. A light beer that tastes like beer, less filling, and only 96 calories. The original light beer since 1975. You don't have to choose what's best. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. It tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/PHLY Birds, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
All right, Zach, let's talk tight ends.
Well, I just want to, before we get into that, this is not an ad that we're having today, but I just want to share with our audience that Bet365, the app, is live today in Pennsylvania. And so you can use code PHLY365 when you sign up. We're going to be partnering with them.
Beautiful. Love that. What do you think they do on leap years? Do you think they change it to Bet366?
No, I think it's Bet365.
Okay, but you can still bet on the leap year day.
I imagine so. Well, we'll see. They just started in PA today.
Okay, well, I'm excited. Let's talk tight ends, ZB. And, we were haranguing the injury proneness of C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Well, the Eagles have done a good job acquiring injury-prone tight ends or unproven tight ends here. So you've got Dallas Goedert, who has missed 15 games over the past 4 seasons. Not crazy. And his top backup, it seems, is CJ Uzomah, who is 31 years old. How many games do you think he has missed over the past 4 seasons, Zach?
I don't know the exact. I'm going to guess 28.
Close, 22.
22.
So
okay.
more than Goddard. Now, there's he had a season in 2020 when he only played 3 games, which is carrying a lot of the weight there. But still, it is not as if you are getting a definitive floor here with the number 2 tight end. This is a guy who could be injured. But how do you feel about the way that the Eagles went about addressing the depth at this position over the course of the offseason?
Yeah, I'm not enthralled by it, if I'm being honest. I think CJ Uzomah, comparable. He's more experienced, but comparable skill set to what you're getting in Jack Stoll. Big pass blocking type.
He has some more proven receiving ability.
Sure.
I mean, in 2021, his last year with the Bengals, he had 49 catches for 493 yards. So that's by far the best season of his 10-year career. But there's at least some belief that maybe there's some upside.
Yeah, well said. A little older in his career, like you said, injury prone. I thought going into the offseason, tight end was a spot they could look at. When I did work on this tight end draft class, I said going into the draft, this is not a spot I would force. I liked Brock Bowers at the top of the draft, so did the rest of the league, right? He was a top 15 pick.
Well, we don't know that. At least one team, at least 2 teams, the Rams wanted to trade up for him.
I thought that Alex Hunt pick maybe could have been Jatavian Sanders.
Sure.
But I didn't think that there was anyone in the free agent market who I would rush to sign at that spot. I didn't think there was anyone in the draft who I was like, you know what, they really need to push for him. I know Ben Sinnott was a guy you liked. He went in the second round. He went earlier than we anticipated. So in that sense, I think tight end's a position that they maybe you look for in the trade market. Probably better off addressing it next offseason. The key here is Dallas Goedert needs to be a better player than he was last season. Dallas Goedert was particularly effective or was particularly efficient for like this stretch of, the 3 years post Ertz, really. You look at his yards per target was as good as it was, as good as there was in the league. Last year, he did not take off the way I thought he was going to. Injuries have been an ongoing thing, similar to C.J. Gardner-Johnson. It's not like one recurring injury or like one lingering injury, but if like there's a freak injury every year, you eventually become injury prone.
And
right?
certainly his style of play is one that you would think invites, hard contact injury to some degree.
Exactly. But he doesn't come off the field. He's real good pass catcher, real good blocker. He's their top guy. Ultimately, this group is about how good Dallas Goedert is. But as far as the depth, I want to see a little more from Grant Calcaterra. I know Nick Sirianni mentioned him when he was talking about like the third receiver.
First guy he brought up.
Yeah. I haven't seen that enough over the past few years. I know injury was a little bit in the mix there. Albert O, they curiously kept him on the roster last year.
And then he was the first player they re-signed.
They traded for him because they didn't want him to hit waivers. They didn't use him. They kept him on the roster when they needed other roster spots.
Christian Ellis.
Then they stashed him on IR, and then they re-signed him before he hits the market. So yeah, I kind of view it like they probably see something there, but I haven't seen it yet. This is actually the first camp that we'll see Alberto.
26 years old, Alberto.
So about Andre Sam's age.
How many catches do you think he had last year for the Eagles?
Well, he had that one target that he dropped. So I'm going to say 0.
Correct. Yeah,
0.
Zero
okay.
on
Yes.
one target.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm glad.
But new offense.
Yeah, new offense.
Yeah, I think the lack of depth behind Goedert is less of a concern just for the tight end group than it is in conjunction with not also having an obvious number 3 receiver. Like they haven't really found whoever that fourth option who's not a running back is going to be. And if you had used, say, a 3rd or 4th round pick on Jatavian Sanders, then it might look a little bit different. I think Uzomah is a totally reasonable bet to make as your number 2 tight end, can block. All accounts are he's a very good locker room guy. One thing I want you to keep an eye out, big face on CJ Uzomah.
Why do you want me to look out for that?
I'm just giving you a heads up.
One thing I want you to look out for, big theater guy.
Big theater guy.
Yes.
Oh, and you hate theater. So maybe he and I can talk.
Oh, I don't hate theater. I just don't like theater.
Okay.
There's a difference.
Important pedantic difference. That's fair.
Yeah, I'm not like, if you go to theater, I'm like, oh, I hate you. It's just, I just don't. Theater is not something I enjoy. I have no ill will toward those in theater or those who attend theater. I love my wife more than anything in the world. She loves the theater. My father-in-law loves the theater. I don't have proclivity toward the theater. I like the movie theater, but I don't like the theater.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, I'll amend that too. I don't mind a play. I don't like a musical. Yeah. I think Joya disapproves.
Not manly enough?
It's nothing. Why do you always bring up gender roles? No, it's not realistic enough. When are you in conversation with someone and something breaks out in song?
All the time.
Well, maybe. I don't know. If Aaron Sorkin writes a play, I promise you I will be there. Like
yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Because I love good writing. Okay? But I don't have the same type of feelings about musicals.
I mean, get out of town here. I mean, I understand that this is your bent. This is the fiction versus nonfiction. This is thinking Oppenheimer is a documentary. But
I never said it's a documentary. I said it's a true story.
But to cast the aspersions that musicals don't take quality writing.
No, I'm saying I like. I'm not a huge music guy. Julia, I've known Julia since I was 10 years old. She can tell you I wasn't a music guy in high school and middle school. I'm not a music guy now. Okay, it's why I listen to podcasts in the car or books on tape in the car or talk radio as opposed to music. I'm not a music guy.
Okay. So
musicals, no, they don't do it for me.
That's why you strongly dislike but do not hate the theater.
I wouldn't say strongly dislike. I'm not. Anyway, CJ Uzomah likes the theater. He. So you and CJ can talk about your favorite plays.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That can be a Wolf's Den.
Well, no, it won't be. How about the rest of this group? Grant Calcaterra, you talked about, he's got 9 catches in 2 seasons. Pretty underwhelming, despite the shout-out from Nick Sirianni, Alberto, and then E.J. Jenkins and McCallan Castles, the undrafted rookie, former basketball player from Tennessee. Yeah,
do you remember his major?
I do. It's like farm agricultural management.
Yeah, agriculture management. Yeah. McCallan Castles, we'll see. I'm not buying McCallan Castle stock right now. I know some other people are.
I'll buy some stock.
Okay, you'll take that. Yeah.
I mean, it's very low. It's
not true.
I'm not gonna take a big loss on McCallan Castle stock.
I was listening to a show this weekend, and one of the questions in the show, I was listening to Philly Special, our friend Sheil, and one of the questions was the undrafted rookie who has the best chance of making the team, and McCallan Castle's name came up, and I'm in the car, like saying Gabe Hall. My kids are probably freaked out. Gay? What's that?
Nothing.
What? Well, so In any event, yeah, there is some McAllen Castles buzz. It's not as palpable as Ben Sumeren buzz, but there is some McAllen.
Yeah, but it's still a
Castles
low
buzz.
stock price.
Nah. It's not a penny stock though.
I mean, it's pretty close to a penny stock.
I think when Jimmy Kempski gives you an endorsement, it's up to like maybe it's a little higher than a penny stock.
Okay, it's $1 stock.
Okay.
I'll buy a little bit of stock, thinking he
Okay.
might make the roster
we'll
and get it
see.
to $3. And if I lose $1, that's okay.
We'll see what happens with Grant Calcaterra this year. I mean, Grant Calcaterra would be my front runner to make the roster as the number 3 guy. Do you think Uzama is definitely the number 2, or do you think that it could be one of those practice squad stashes?
I think if he stays healthy, I would be surprised if he is not the number 2, unless Calcaterra takes some big jump. I also think this is a place where the waiver wire may come into play.
You know what? Donald Parham might be available.
Yeah, boy, Parham watch continues. Yes. Wow, day 143.
Never say never. Watch. I mean, unless look, the Chargers might keep like 15 tight ends for all I care, or for all I know, but they are loaded at tight end, so we'll see.
Okay,
let's see. They're on our lads. Their tight end depth chart. He is now 3rd after Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, let's get him over here.
Let's get, yeah.
I mean, what a call that would be for you.
6'8". Are you kidding me?
He might throw you a parade if they trade for Donald Parham.
It'd be MoMA mania. It wouldn't be the first time that they took one of my pieces of advice.
Okay, what was the most recent time?
Will Shipley.
You say he was a 5th rounder.
Yeah, they couldn't wait.
Yeah, okay.
They were motivated by the write-up.
Tight end, defensive tackle, wide receiver. Mm-hmm. Which of those 3 do you think is most likely to be acquired from another team?
Good question. Defensive tackle. Wait, acquired from another team or acquired from the outside?
Acquired from another team.
Acquired from another team. Wide receiver. Okay. Because teams have more of a surplus of wide receivers than they do. Typically, wide receiver is a position that you're deep on in camp because of numbers. You're playing 3-4 at a time, so teams go 12 deep, right? So there's more of a surplus to trade from. Teams don't have as much of a surplus at defensive tackle, although the Eagles did. Well, the Eagles once traded Bruce Hector during camp,
and then got him back. The
famous
how is one of the top 3 trades he's ever made.
Bruce Hector, Rudy Ford trade. So they did trade from a surplus before, but typically I think you're more apt to see a wide receiver traded.
I mean, logistically, it's the best trade he ever made.
Well,
he got something for nothing and got the thing back.
True. Okay.
Immediately.
You were real high on the Cyprian trade?
Cyprian trade was unbelievable value.
Okay.
I mean, unbelievable value. He gave away Cyprian for Duke Riley
and a pick,
and got the pick equity.
Yes.
Like he got more picks out of that. Unbelievable value.
Yes.
AJ Brown was nice.
Yeah.
But to trade Bruce Hector in exchange for Rudy Ford makes your 53, and then the next week you get Bruce Hector back on the practice squad. You can't do better than that.
So in my I want to call it a manifesto. That's weird. But in my list of things that I want to focus on this year to improve the show or improve my performance on the show, one of the things is
more Bruce Hector.
No, is you don't have to volunteer everything. Okay. I ultimately I am in control of what I say. So this is one of those situations here where, as I say this, but now I gave that preamble, I kind of have to say it. But What I was going to say is I remember where I was when that trade went down.
Okay. And where was it?
I was at Suburban Square in Ardmore. I was at Trader Joe's at Suburban Square in Ardmore, and that trade went down, and I left the grocery store to go and tweet about it.
You couldn't tweet about it from the store?
I wanted to look some stuff up.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, there was a place right there where I could pull my laptop up. I pulled my laptop up, and then it went back in. I had just walked into the store at the trade.
I was going to say, did you had?
Yeah. No, I didn't have anything. I would have finished. I would have paid for the groceries.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just kind of going through the list at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, why did you think that was too much personal information?
No, I just thought if I said I remember where I was when the Bruce Hector trade went down, you would turn that into something that I don't know. I just didn't think it was something I needed to volunteer. But that's where I was.
What are you talking about? What did I turn that into?
You?
It's nothing. I would ask where you were.
Do you remember where you were when the prospective trade went
No.
down? It was an off day of training camp 2019.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay.
Sorry.
I honestly didn't know much about Rudy Ford at the time.
Now here's my follow up to the manifesto.
It's not a manifesto, okay? Manifesto has, especially now, negative connotations. It's not a manifesto.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you square the commitment to not wanting to volunteer more of your personal information with also caring so much about what the audience wants when the overwhelming notion from the audience, and they will tell you so in the chat and they will tell you so in the comments, is that they want more of your personal information? All men count, but none too much. How do we make this? How do we rectify these two ideas?
Well, it's knowing what you're going to share and knowing what you're not. It sometimes has to be to anticipate what your reaction might be. Like in the future, I don't need to compare your like scouting a camp crush to looking up who might be in your class in college. Like that's probably not a comparison that is productive for me to make in the future. Okay. But if it's I was at Nick Sirianni's or I was at I was having a conversation with Howie Roseman 10 years ago about a position coach in college, that's information I'm willing to share.
Okay.
Yeah.
The people want more. The people want more, Zach. They want to continue to peel back these onion layers.
Hey, let's keep building up these numbers, and maybe I'll keep peeling back these onion layers. Right?
Ooh, that's right.
Let's tell your friends and your friends' friends and your friends' 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 friends.
If we reach, what's the subscriber number for an all nude show?
Well, that will not happen. A man must have a code, right? And my integrity is of the utmost importance. So no, you want to be known for your information and not anything bombastic. But so
okay,
and your personality.
Yeah, you want those. There's a flip side here. You want those subscribers up. We show a little more skin.
Yeah. I do want those subscribers up. And look, Julie is incredible. On the screen right here, you can click subscribe. Yeah, you can click the subscribe button. You can rate, review. Trust me, I read every one of the iTunes or not iTunes, the Apple podcasts.
How are we doing there? People still angry at me?
I forget. That's why I shouldn't have brought it up. I would recommend you don't read it, but but
that's fine.
At least the most recent ones. But in any event, no, please continue comment on the show. You can send emails. You can send DMs. Respond to everything.
Okay. Yeah, and if you're one of those Apple podcast commenters, stop listening to the show.
No, don't stop listening to the show, please. Yeah. No, don't stop listening to the show. Listen, have your friends listen, and
tell your friends who have fun that they can listen to the show, and you go continue to be sour and miserable somewhere.
We have a few minutes left here. Can I just share what is coming up this week?
Please.
Okay, because we mentioned it earlier last week, but we are in training camp mode here. I think it is important to tell you. So 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday, Nick Sirianni will have a press conference kicking off training camp. Okay, Bo and I will be there at 10 a.m. This 2 p.m. time you see today. Oh, by the way, Conan says read the Discord. Yeah, you can go to read the PHLY Discord. I'm on that. There's other Discords too.
He's talking about the sickos one.
Okay, that one as well. Okay.
Good.
10 a.m. Is practice. Really every day throughout training camp, other than the public practice at Lincoln Financial Field. And that practice is Thursday, August 1st. But 10 a.m., you can follow on social media for updates. You can follow. Our show will be 2 o'clock during the week. Bo and I will also have video updates on social, kind of like catching you up on what happened at practice. We'll have exclusive material on all PHLY for our diehards. And so I'm really excited for this training camp. I think we have some good momentum going.
Serious question.
Yep.
The schedule that you see there.
Yep.
How is it different than years past?
Yes.
I know you know this.
So last year, for instance, they were kind of one on, one off. And I shouldn't say one on. They were a practice day, then a walkthrough, like a practice day, a walkthrough. This year, they're 2 on, 1 off for the most part, right? So
there's one stretch of 4 practices in a row.
Yeah, and
they definitely never did in the past couple of years under Sirianni.
Yes, and that's leading into the first preseason game. And to me, there's a few ways to look at that. They're probably not playing their guys in the preseason, right? So my guess is that Wednesday practice before the preseason is going to be a heavy starters day, right? Because you want to get your starters work before 3 days off, right? So, but yeah, so I'll read through this quickly. Practices that we will attend will be Wednesday, the 24th, Thursday, the 25th, Saturday, the 27th, Monday, the 29th, Tuesday, the 30th, Thursday, the 1st. That's at Lincoln Financial Field. Sunday, the 4th, Monday, the 5th, August the 6th. Tuesday, August the 6th, and Wednesday, August the 7th. And then preseason opener is Friday, August 9th. We'll have pre- and post-game shows for all those games as well. But Monday to Fridays during the week, we will have shows 2:00, and then the weekend practices will have content online.
AllPHLY.com. Become a diehard. See a little bit more of Zach's chest. That's the promise we can make. All right. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Back tomorrow at 2. We are 2 sleeps away, Zach, from the start of Eagles training camp. We are going to be here with you all along. Excited. The start of the football season. What gets better than that? So, for Julia and Zach, I'm Bo. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We will talk to you tomorrow at 2. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.